Kadosh Boker Or. Daf Yomi Masechet Batra Daf Kufchet Amud Aleph 108A1. We're just starting though on the bottom of Kuf Zayin Amud Bet by the two dots where it says Tana. We were talking about the charitz. So if you remember in the Mishnah, we came and we said that if you have a field, right? Imagine you have a property and then you divide the property. You sold half the property. So on your side of the property, that's where you have to put the fence. On your side of the property, plus the charitz. What is the charitz? And then we spoke about how much is each one. So it says over here, Tana, we learned, charitz is mibachutz, which means is further out than the gader. Uben charitz is going to be bifnim, is on the inside of the gader, right? So he comes and he says, veze veze achore gader. Now, also the charitz and also the ben charitz, it's going to be outside of the gader. Okay? So he says, why? Everyone understood what happened. You're building a wall, right? That's a gader. There's a wall. On both sides of the wall, you're going to make a ditch type of an area. Why? Because you don't want that a wild animal will come and jump the wall. So if you make a ditch further down, you know where you see this a lot? In the zoos. A lot of times you'll see in the zoo, you have the fence, but on the other side of the fence, there's already a ditch. So therefore, even if it's going to be that you have an animal that would come, it would not be able to jump it because it's also lower down. So therefore, the height, even if the wall was not the highest thing in the world, but between the wall plus the ditch, it will not be able to get over. So that's what we're talking about. Okay? So ask the Gemara, so 1 second, why don't you make a charitz and don't do a ben charitz, right? Meaning just do a charitz which is wide, in order that the wild animals are going to be further away from the wall. The Gemara, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. So answers the Gemara, I did the ravach kaima begave bekavtza. He says, since the charitz is very wide, so therefore he could still go and jump on it. And therefore there has to be, right, that's what he's saying over here. Therefore it still has to be, the charitz is a ditch. Right? So he says, therefore it has to be, right, the charitz arachav has to be further away from the fence. So you have a wider ditch, and then you have a narrower ditch. Okay? So says the Gemara, okay, fine. So just do a ben charitz and don't do a charitz. So he says, no, I did the katin, kaima svate v'kavtza. He says, since it's going to be so skinny, like meaning so small, it's not wide, so therefore the chaya could go at the end of it and just jump. Right? And therefore he says, that's why he has to make it that you're going to make a wide one, and then you have to make a shorter one. Okay? Right, one after another. The kama ben charitz charitz. So what is it between one charitz and another charitz? He says a tefach. A tefach is already enough. Hadran alach. Right? Betku. Hadran alach. Okay, so Bezat Hashem, we're starting a new chapter. Perek Shemini. Okay, Kufchet Amud Aleph 108a. We're starting now the new perek. Yesh nochalin. Yeah, he comes and he says, right? He says some people are going to be nochalin umanchilin, which means you have family members that they're going to inherit, and then you have other ones that they're going to give the inheritance, right, to others, right? V'yesh nochalin v'lo manchilin. You have some people that they're going to inherit, but they do not give it to other people, right? Hamanchilin v'lo nochalin. You have some people that are going to be manchilin v'lo nochalin, and then you have lo nochalin v'lo manchilin. So that means you have all the cases, right, about inheritors, right? That it does it go on both sides or not. So let's start. Velu nochalin machlin. Who inherits each other? So you have ha'av et habanim, the father to the children. Habanim et ha'av, the children to the father. Ha'achim min ha'av, brothers from the father, meaning paternal fathers. Va'achim min ha'av, right? We're talking about the brothers from, right? We're talking about the brothers from the father, meaning the uncles. Okay, and nochalin u'machilin. So these people, they all inherit each other. Right? Remember, it's always going to be from the father's side, paternal side. Okay, so you've got whether it's going to be the brothers or the uncles. Okay, fine. Ha'ish et imo, ve'ha'ish et ishto, u'bnei achayot, nochalim ve'lo manchilim, which means a man will inherit his mother, a man will inherit his wife, and the sisters from the same father. Bnei achayot, right? We're talking about from the, like, for example, like cousins and all these things. Again, from the father, these people, they are nochalim, okay? But no, they could inherit the other sister. right? They could inherit the other one. So that means he says here a person could inherit his mother or his wife, or if the mother dies, he gets inheritance. Correct? So he says, however, though, if he dies, they don't inherit him. Meaning, if a man dies, his mother doesn't inherit him. Who inherits him? His children. If it's not the children, then his brothers or the father. You understand? But it's not the mother. The mother could give the inheritance to him. That's the pshat that we say, nochalin, but not manchilin. Okay? Now, what about the other way around? The suga shlishi, right? So here it actually brings it down afterwards, by the way, in the footnote. He says a son will inherit his mother, right? He says, only if the husband is not alive, right? And the same thing, a man will inherit his wife. He says the balu shadishon. So actually, the truth is, he's the first one to inherit. Even before his own children, he inherits his wife first, right? And benei chayot is that a person that comes and he dies without any children, right? So he says whether it's going to be no father or the brothers or whatever it is. So therefore, it's going to go to the sister from the father. So to an aunt. Okay, fine. Now he says over here like this. He says, what exactly is the next case? So now, flip the case. It's the other way around. A woman will give an inheritance to her son, to her children, to her boys, right? But she does not inherit them, right? Aishat bala, the woman to her husband, acheaim, right? The brothers, right, from the mother. Manchilin v'no nochalin. So again, the same thing. Manchilin v'no nochalin. They don't get the nachala. I'm on 108a. Kufchet Amud Aleph. Okay, the Mishnah. So he says in the last part of the Mishnah, "Ve'achim mina'em lo nochalin ve'lo manchilin." When you have a case of, right, achim mina'em, meaning you have brothers, right, but they're only brothers from the mother, not from the father. Okay, meaning from the mother. So therefore, they are not nochalin and not manchilin. Shum davar. Yeah, yeah, because it's from the mother. So from the mother, there's nothing.
God forbid if the woman dies.
Maishna diktani ha'av et abanim bereisha, litni abanim et ha'av bereisha. What's more normal? That a child will inherit a father, or a father will inherit a child? The child will inherit. So for the first thing you have to write is abanim et ha'av. Why do we start ha'av et abanim? Yeah. So answer the Gemara, Chada number 1, right? He says, right? Why is it that Kilu that he's going to be nochel tabanim? So he says it was the exact same reason what I just said. That chule bepuranut lo matchalinan, which means you don't want to start with puranut, which means that he says the av will not be nochelet beno unless he will die in his lifetime, right? Without children. So that's a klala that a person is dying without children. So therefore, with the av, that he's going to see the death of his own children. So because of that, we first wanted to bring down that the banim are nochalim et av, right? Because that's a bracha. It's a bracha that the children inherit their father. Okay, and that's a bracha, right? That the father should die during the lifetime of the children, and therefore the children should come and they should actually inherit him. They should bury him. So that's a bracha, and that's why we actually learned it that way. Okay, so that's one reason why we first brought down that the av is nochel et banav, right? So he comes and he says another reason. It says it in the pasuk, meaning it says in the pasuk ish ki amut uben lo, then v'avatem nachalato levito. It's mashma that if he has a ben, right? It only says that if a person dies and he doesn't have a son, so then the daughter gets it. Mashma that if he has a ben, his son is getting it. So therefore, just like the Parashat Nachalot starts with Yerushata Ben, so to here we're going to start with Yerushata Ben. We didn't speak about Yerushata Abba. We're speaking about Yerushat Haben. Even though first you should have started with Yerushat Abba, because that's the normal. Start with the father, then you go down to the children, then you go down to everybody else. Says no, we don't want to start with bad things. Obviously, it's a bad thing if the father has to inherit a child, right? It's a bad thing, but that means that he doesn't have children either. One more time, how does a father inherit a child? Only if the child died without children. So it's a twofold puranut. Number one, the child died without children. And number two, the child died during the lifetime of the father. So therefore, it's like mamash, it's like a double whammy, right? So therefore, we didn't want to start that way. Okay? So says the Gemara, right? The Tana, but the Tana of our Mishnah, that he first spoke about the Yerusha of the father before the son. I did the Atyele Midrasha Chavivale. Since it came from a drasha, which was not mifurash in the Torah, it was so chaviv. That's why we went and we brought down Yerushat Ben, right? It came before Yerushat Ben, which was mifurash in the Torah. Meaning, even though usually you're right, and generally I don't want to start with bad things, and generally it's a double whammy, and generally it's also the mifurash in the Torah that you start with. I still started with this way. Why did you start with, right, the father first? Right, because it says havet abanim, the father inherits the children. Why are we starting with that one? You should have started the other way around. It came from a drasha. When it comes from a drasha, it's chaviv, right? Why? Because if it's written explicitly, chazak baruch, it's written explicitly. It's not a chidush. There's nothing there. When you come and you learn it from a drasha, it's more chaviv. So because it's more chaviv, more precious, so that's why you brought it first. Okay? So says the Gemara, what is the drasha? So he says, the Tanya we learned on Braita, she'ero. It says in the Torah, right, towards the end of the Nachalot, it says, Untatem Nachalato lish'ero hakarov elav. You're going to give the Nachalah to the closest kin, right? So he says, who's she'ero? She'ero ze'av. It's the father. Melamed sha'av kodem lachin. So it comes out that the father is before the brothers. Yeah? So one more time. A person passes away. Who's the first person that inherits? His boys, right? The boys. Okay? What happens if he doesn't have boys? Okay, yeah. Let's say he doesn't have children, right? So then it's going to be the father before the brothers.
His father.
His sister, the girl.
The father. What?
No, there's no sister.
He doesn't have any children.
Nothing.
He has no children. Yeah?
Boys, no girls.
No boys, no girls. So what happens? It goes upward. It does not go to the sides. It does not go to the siblings. It first goes to the father, and then it goes right to everybody else. So he says, Yachol shi'e kodem leben. So 1 second. So maybe be'emet, it should first go to the father also, even before his own son. So says the Gemara, Talmud Omar, HaKarov, Karov Kodem. When it says HaKarov elav, the Karov, right, is Karov biyoter, is Kodem Yosho. So since the son of the deceased is closer than his father, okay, so he says because basically, right, the son is the one that goes instead of the father for anything, whether it's te'achuzah and for everything else. So because of that, he comes and he says that's why first comes the son and then it's the father. So fine.
Guy dies.
Says the Gemara, Umar ra'ite lerabot et haben ulotzi et ha'ach. Why are you coming? You're including the son and you're excluding the brother, right? Opposite. I would say that the brother should come even before the father and even before the son, right? Meaning, since the pasuk is not actually written in the order, right, but rather a karov kodem, so maybe the brotherhood is even stronger than anything else, right?
Totally unfair.
Yeah, it should go to the brothers.
That's
So
he gives it to his brother. God forbid the brother dies. Now he gives it to his children.
no, we continue going to the other brothers.
He doesn't have a brother.
Fine. And what happens if he doesn't have brothers from the beginning?
His children,
Fine,
they get
fine.
nothing, and his brother
So he says, "Marbe ani et haben sheken kam tachat aviv liyada," right? Ve'liste achuzah. He says, no. You always go after the son. Why would you go after the son first? Because the son is instead of the father to do with two different mitzvot. Mitzvah number one, ama ivriya. What's halachot of ama ivriya? Ama ivriya is that when you have a person that he buys an ama ha'ivriya, not a shifcha kananit, an ama ha'ivriya. When he buys the ama ha'ivriya, what happens is that he usually has to get married to her. What happens if he doesn't get married to her? So then, amarti tzekla, ama ha'ivriya, and the shifcha kananit. Okay. I just said Shifcha Kananit, you're not allowed to get married to a Shifcha Kananit. She's a Goya, right? It's a lot of status. No, it's a status of Legamne. That's what I'm just saying. One more time. There's no such thing. It's Amma Ha'ivriya. Amma Ha'ivriya, you're supposed to get married to her. If you don't get married to her, your son is supposed to get married to her. Remember, Shivcha Kananit, you're never allowed to get married to her. She's a Shivcha. What? לא שומע.
מה?
אתה צריך לשחרר אותה. Yeah?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he says like this. What?
אבל גם ככה היא משתחררת, לא?
היא משתחררת? Well, if she becomes a גדולה, then she's משתחררת, yes. The next halacha is Sedeh Achuzah. What is Sedeh Achuzah? Right? Sedeh Achuzah, right? What is that exactly? Yeah? Sedeh Achuzah is that if you're going to consecrate a field, right, and the Gizbar came and he sells it, right, it goes back to him on Yovel. However, if he sold it to the brother or any other family members, it does not go back, right, to Yovel, to the Magdish, but rather it goes to the Kohanim, meaning that the son is instead of the father, but not the brothers. If the brothers come and they consecrate, meaning that, one more time, you came and you made a Gdesh, right, and then the Gizbar, which is like the Gabai, right, the Parnas, right, of the Bet HaMikdash, he comes and he sells it. So if he's going to sell it to the son, it still goes back to the father by Yovel. If he sold it to the brothers, it doesn't go back to the brother, the one that sold it, that made the Ekdesh, but rather it goes to the Kohanim. So because the son is instead of the father in these two halachot, the son always comes first, even before the brothers. So says the Gemara, Adraba. I would say the opposite. Marbe ani et ha'ach, sheken kam tachat achiv liibum. You have ibum. Who does ibum? The brother. So the brother is instead of this brother. So therefore the brother should always come first. Yeah? Says the Gemara. What's the obvious answer?
One is for Bamazal, one is for children.
I want a good answer. When is there yibum? If there's no son, you cannot bring me a proof that brothers come before children because of yibum. Because yibum that means that there's no son. We have to try to find a case where there is a son and there is a brother, and who's closer? Who's the one that fills the space, fills the shoes? But other, it says the Gemara, klum yesh yibum, ela bimkom shem ben, habimkom sheyesh ben, and mitzvot yibum. So what are you talking? What are you coming to? What are you saying? So it says the Gemara, ta'ama. The reasoning is hikai pinchas. You have this question. Halavachi. But if it wasn't like that, Havamina, I would have thought to say achadif, that the brother is first. Teipu klei tehachatarti v'achada. He says 1 second. It's 2 against 1. Even let's pretend that it was a good question. The brothers go instead of the other brother by yibum, right? And the son goes instead of the father by yi'ud, which is basically designation of an amai riyah to get married to her, plus sedeh achuzah. You've got 2 against 1, right? Remember, Tishri is mishkal. Yeah, we're talking about weighing. So Ribono Shalom, you got to wait. You got 2 and you got 1. Who's going to win? The 2. So even without the question of no, but it's only with there's no children, you got a 2 against 1 case.
There's another question.
1 minute. Yeah. So he answers the Gemara. Sedeh achuzah gufa mehai tamahu dekakai me'ela letana klum yesh ibum ela bimkom shen ben habimkom sheyesh ben and ibum. The entire deen of the sedeh achuzah was also for the same reasoning that he says was, if not, then we wouldn't have known, right, that the son is going to come instead of the father for sedeh achuzah only because of this. So it comes out that if it wasn't that we answered by ibum, so then Mehmet would have been 1 against 1. Because the sedeh achuzah you only know because of the ibum. So therefore, only because we answered ibum, that by the ibum it's only that you're zol ibum if you don't have children. So therefore, if we didn't have that answer, I wouldn't know sedeh achuzah. So if it would have been 1 against 1. That's why you needed this answer of the ibum in order to come and to answer this